Kris, go.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Law Wands Collab Podcast, where today let's talk about Tross, baby. We got a big panel, as you can see here, and if you can see, we're on different sides. So, and we're gonna announce this like a sports team. I'm just gonna make up people's heights. Just because it'll be funnier that way.
I love that.
All right. Coming to you live, the Cornhusker, standing at 5'11",
Okay,
Mr. Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Luke the Padawan.
What's going on? What's going on?
Commotion.
Ladies Man 2117.
Oh Jesus, that is not how that. Okay, this is what I get for letting you do
Next.
this.
Luke really related to that movie.
The man, the myth, the editor, coming to you live with the Shadow of the Sith book and the Tross book in his hands. We got Mr. Hereth Productions.
Woo!
Woo!
Commotion.
Next, we have Mr. Canada, Mr. I Need More Sith Lore in Star Wars. Where is it, Lucasfilm? We have Jesse, aka the mentally ill Sith Lord.
Yeah, Sith, woohoo!
Commotion.
Sith are still bad, but yeah, woohoo!
Let's go!
Cheer
Next
for the
on
bad
the
people.
enjoyer side, we have Kris, one half of the Dark Side Divas podcast, and he is ready with his rebel shirt because rebellions are built on hope.
That's right. Damn right.
And last but certainly not least, coming to us where it is rainy, but I won't say the location, we got Ray Skygoat, aka Peanut, the hijabi Jedi herself.
Woo!
Yay!
Hey,
Yay.
Skywalker, baby! You can't see me,
Yay.
but I'm cheering.
Hey, there you go.
All right, now like there should be, the Imperial March theme playing
I think we should get the Imperial March.
for the non-enjoyers. First, being a bees, there's no words that can properly describe them. But I'm rolling with the Kylo Ren lovers, the Ben Solo lovers, the Ben Solo apologists. So we got being a bees who's come ready with receipts.
Yes. Apparently.
I love that.
We have the dragon herself, Lady Dragon JJ, ready to spit hot fire all over this film.
I'll be
Lord
nice.
Almighty.
I'll be charitable.
This is the biggest cluster fuck and a half already.
Oh,
We
just
haven't
you
even
wait.
started.
Just you wait. And I am one of your hosts, Star Wars lawyer. All rise. Court is now in session.
Wow.
Yeah, baby.
I did pay that
Alright.
parking ticket, Your Honor.
I swear I didn't leave my speeder in that spot.
I do want to say it is very ironic as someone that was what was the term we came up with, staunchly counter Raylo, not anti Raylo throughout
Yeah.
all this, and my team are two Raylos that no, not just two, not any two Raylos, two of like four that made me see why enemies to lovers has what merit
It's a
it
good
has.
trope. It's a good
I
trope.
thought for a second you were going to say two of the four only Raylos, and I was like, there's
No.
only
I
was like,
four?
that's
Ain't no way.
there's much more.
There's more of us.
Think is
Brooke is a third. She's in the comments, and then Eggy's the fourth.
there
I don't
she
know
is.
where Eggy is. But yeah, so we're going to talk about the rise of Skywalker. So before we get into just like deep dives of thoughts and conversations about the film, I got three like baseline questions. I mean, I wasn't expecting all of us to be on sides already,
Right.
but
yeah, word.
so three questions. So the first one is, in your rankings of all the Star Wars films, we're including Clone Wars because it was a theatrically released Star Wars film. Where does Tross line up in your rankings? If y'all need time, I'll give you time because I already know where mine is.
Mine is.
It's 10 of 11 or 10 of 12. 10 of 12 if you're including Clone Wars.
And the Ewok movies, right?
if you're including the
Duh.
Ewok movie, then
Of course.
I think it's still 10.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh.
for me, Rise of Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Hey!
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is legit. I love that take. Like that is such an underrated take. I love it. I love
No
it.
kidding. It's alone in this part of the world. Very lonely.
I bet it is. I bet it is. It is probably between 7 or 8 on my list. I personally think that it's the best sequel movie.
That's
But-
correct.
Who's going next?
Who's next?
Yeah.
I can do it.
Enjoyers, do your thing.
For me, The Rise of Skywalker is second
Okay.
out of
Oh,
all
amazing.
of them.
all of them, or just sequels?
All of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, not a very popular take. But
This will be interesting.
Hey man, you love the
Gee,
film.
damn.
Y'all love the film. I'm not gonna knock that. I don't want to take
No.
that away from you. That's not the purpose of this conversation.
But they're
Yes,
just
it is. I'm here to destroy your dreams.
Do I ruin?
Use
And
the dragon.
I'm here for that. Yeah.
She's
I
the dragon. I'm the sea snake.
Do I completely ruin the momentum of this conversation and put the lowest of the enjoyers?
do it.
For me, it's 9th.
That's not bad.
Above the Clone Wars movie and the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
I feel like we should move Hereth over. Everybody on the Enjoyers team, say hi to move
Yeah.
Hereth over.
Like 9 is really
No,
low.
put him in the
Harry.
middle.
Literally
Put him in the
come to
middle.
the
Put him
dark
right
side.
in the middle.
hold on. Luke, did you not say 8th? You're not that much better.
That's a good point.
That
Yeah,
is
you thought you
fair.
got away with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, what is the definition of an enjoyer and non-enjoyer, especially if you're ranking a movie so low?
I mean,
I guess
compared
it's-
to it's
It's from a certain point of view.
Hey.
I enjoyed the movie for what it is.
Oh,
Are you on the right side, friend?
I feel like you're the spy.
Yeah, it's just like a Hux reveal.
getting roasted.
I agree with Brooke.
Absolutely
Attack of the
roasted.
Clones is also amazing.
I have a
Attack of the Clones
special
used to be
relationship
my
with that
least favorite
movie.
Star
I
Wars film.
love that movie.
Do I,
Oh,
do I have to
that-
am I getting voted to the other side?
Put him in the
No.
middle.
Am I voted off the island?
All in
You don't
favor.
get a side. You'll go in the
No.
middle.
I'll
yeah,
go in the
yeah,
middle.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
you put the
Great
Ben-
In the middle.
Yeah, put Ben do in the middle. Except that's way too much power for Hereth. I don't know. Oh God!
Oh, and he
Damn it.
covers up Ray during.
No.
when
Yeah,
he's-
I was
Wow.
listening.
Damn.
Wow. Here. How
Unacceptable.
dare
There we
you
go.
do that?
No,
I think
that-
if there's one thing we can all agree on is that we all love Ray. So how dare you, Harry?
Oh
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a
Oh, yeah.
universal
Yes.
connector.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Peanut.
Peanut.
Well, I mean, I think this may come as a surprise, like however way you look at it, because it's 4th on my overall ranking. So, some might say it's not high enough considering how much I talk about it. Some people think
That's
it's,
fine.
not low enough. So you can't satisfy everyone. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
All right. So we got a nice baseline for that. So the second question is, should this movie have been 2 films like the writers wanted?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I think that's
Yeah.
unanimous.
Without a doubt.
Or a 3-hour cut.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that goes to the third question.
Yeah.
If
or a 3-hour
it
cut.
wasn't going to be 2 films, should it have been the longest film in the
Yes.
series?
Yes.
Absolutely. If
Mhm.
you think about it, it's literally ending an entire 9-film saga.
Mhm.
If this film was gonna be 3 hours, is that an additional hour of MacGuffin chasing nightmare, or is
30
it gonna
minutes.
flesh out some actual characters? If it's an additional hour of nothing, I don't want it.
Like,
Yeah.
what would
I mean,
you?
you,
It depends on what they take from like the novelization and put into the movie, because
Oh, I love that novel.
I
if
would
you-
say, give Rose more than a minute and 16 seconds of screen time.
Yeah,
Give
that's
Finn
cool.
something to do that's useful.
Amen to that.
Yes,
make
agreed.
Poe not a drug runner. Wait, I'm going into my reasons about this.
He's preaching.
I know, I know, I
yeah.
know.
Develop
But-
characters is essentially an additional hour to develop characters that were not developed at all.
Give me Lando's theme, which exists, but they cut from the movie.
Seriously?
A crime.
Yes,
Lando has a theme?
Lando
Yeah.
has a theme in
It
this
got
film.
cut.
You thought you were gonna get away with Chris not talking about Lando today.
Oh,
actually
oh,
surprised.
there's
I
a
knew
We got to talk about
argument
Lando.
about Lando.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
let's-
feel like if the main plot points to stay the same, it could stay the same length. I don't need to sit there for another hour being tortured. It's good. It's fine. The length was fine.
Okay, another 30 minutes, but Ben Solo lives.
All right.
Yeah, I know my
Wait
team.
a minute.
I
Wait
know
a
my
minute.
team.
But if he lives, would that not just make an ending of the movie way too painfully long?
No,
Because then
Nope.
it's 30 minutes of
Yeah.
them trying to end a movie.
The Return of the King effect.
no,
Hmm.
no.
Hey,
no, here's-
hey,
no, no,
hey,
here's-
fucking Dash, one of the best fucking movies in all of cinema.
Listen here, Obi-Wan Kenobi's better than Resistance, okay?
It is better than Resistance.
Okay, all right. Here's my thing. Even if you added, let's say, like 10 more minutes to the film, let's say after everybody is hugging on Ajin Kloss, which is one of the best hugs in Star Wars, period. If you did, let's say Ben lived, and you showed each character, each group of characters, depending, going off in the separate ways that they're going to. So if you saw Rey and Finn training, you saw Ben traveling the galaxy, going to worlds where the First Order had, dominated and trying to atone there. You show Poe and Rose helping develop the Resistance. Janna, Lando, and Troop 77 going off and trying to find these people's families. That wraps things up better than just Rey by herself on Tatooine.
It's way more satisfying because
Yeah.
the last image was an empty one, empty. That at least concludes some of the plot points and actually gives us some sense of hope instead of loneliness and misery on a desert planet filled with blood.
Nah, we should have just had Rey and Ben fighting on Tatooine, like in that one promo image or concept art. I mean,
Wow.
that would have been fun, right? Right at the Lars.
No
zone.
more
Yeah.
Tatooine.
Blow it up.
Agreed.
Blow it up. Where's Starkiller based when you need it? I hate
They
that
pick the
planet.
They pick the worst planets to blow up. Alderaan, why?
Why? Tatooine's right there.
All
How
right,
many
so-
shows we have on Tatooine now? Like
I'm so
5?
fucking tired of that planet.
Well, it is
Get rid of
it is a key system of the whole story. So I don't, I hear people when they say there's too much Tatooine. I'm just like, well, there's also too much space, but we're gonna clearly have a lot of that too. So I don't think I never understood the Tatooine feedback.
I feel like
Alright.
every time we return to Tatooine, I'm like, I feel like the story there is become stagnant, and I'm like, what's happening there? Like, where's the healing? Like on that planet, it feels very much like it's stuck in this like Tartarus, basically. So I feel like that's my beef with Tatooine. That it's like it feels like purgatory because nothing ever gets better there.
We
That's
all
mine.
Besides Resistance,
The entire
'cause I haven't seen Resistance, so Jesse, you'll have to let me know. Is Tatooine in Resistance? Because
No.
if it is,
No.
okay, that's the only Star Wars show where Tatooine is not.
I'm
in it.
now actually finished
Was it
watching
in? Was it in Andor?
It wasn't.
Not
no,
yet.
It wasn't. It
God
wasn't. Okay, so there are
You're
two
right.
now.
Mm.
That's
That's
it makes
progress.
Andor even better.
And wait, no.
the entire Star Wars saga starts with a young man trying to get off of that planet.
And
And
yet
we keep going
back.
back to it. Like, enough. Let's take a break. Let's go somewhere where it's fucking green. Give me some water.
Welcome to the
No
subject
green.
change. Do we
Right.
want Tatooine or not?
No.
Guys.
That's actually everyone's issue with this movie. Is Tatooine.
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 All right.
I think though because of the heavy Dune influences of Star Wars, like it always, to me, Tatooine is always kind of like that return to its influence. Just like how from time to time there's that recapturing of Japanese influence or the spaghetti western influence as well. It's kind of like going back to where it started, and I that's why I never mind it.
That's fair.
Agreed. Yeah.
That is a good
Okay,
pick.
so let's get into the film. I'm going to start this off telling my story of seeing the film. So I saw every sequel film at Disney. The Force Awakens had a huge premiere. That was a lot of fun. Every single theater was The Force Awakens, and I believe that was the case for the other subsequent films. But there was no big celebration for The Last Jedi or Tross, which I thought was like, that's a huge missed opportunity. So we're watching the film, everything's fine. I'm not really like thinking about whether I'm enjoying it or not. It's Star Wars, so I'm in it. We're on Exegol. Palpatine just got defeated. Rey collapses. Ben Solo pulls himself out of the pit. He says, ow. He goes over to Rey. He heals her. She comes back to life. And so I'm like, they're about to kiss. My niece, who's like 12 at the time, is like, or 13. She's like gripping onto her seat because she wants this to happen.
Aw.
And she's sitting right next to me. And then they kiss. And there's this girl who's sitting in front of my dad who's 2 seats down from me. And she is like 5'2", maybe. She's small. There is no reason why she's able to move this chair so much back and forth to the point where it goes backward. It hits my dad, breaks the chair. And my dad's like, yo, calm down. And she's like, fuck you. My dad's like, what?
Excuse me.
Hold up.
Wow.
And so like
That's
The
whole
audacity.
next, like 5 minutes of the movie I miss because I'm just like, what is going on here? And then like other people are just like are trying to figure out what happened. So like next thing I know, they're on Tatooine. I'm like, wait, what happened?
That's the true reason why Chris does not like this film.
Chris,
Because he never
I gotta
got
tell you,
That's
that
a great
is
story,
very
though.
similar- That is similar to my Endgame story. I gotta tell that to you one day. It was
Okay.
not a good experience.
But anyway, sorry, Chris.
All right. So yes, that's the story. So for me, if I'm gonna start for reason why I don't like the film, I say the main reason, I feel like it fails pretty much every main character that we've either been that is still alive or that we've been introduced to in the sequels besides Rey. I will say I don't like her being a Palpatine. I can overlook that based on her, like she never knew the name. She never knew her lineage until the end. So like, it doesn't really change much for me. Like I like the poetry and us, her choosing to be a Skywalker and abandoning Palpatine. Like, I can see that. But for me, like, I'll start with the easy one. I mentioned it earlier. Rose. Going from nearly 11 minutes of screen time in The Last Jedi to 76 seconds in The Rise of Skywalker. And the best thing they can say was, oh, well, we had her stuff that was mostly with Leia, but, we had to cut it or we couldn't film it. And I'm just like, well, then rewrite it. You already rewrote this thing like 18 different times. So there's that one. Let's go. Poe. There is no reason for Poe to have been made a spice runner. No reason at all.
I agree.
If you wanted to give them underworld connections, as we've seen with Andor, as we've seen with Rebels, Clone Wars, heroes have connections with the underworld because of just the nature of going about the galaxy. Like, not everybody that's in the underworld is a bad person. They may be profit motivator or whatever.
Right.
You didn't need to make him a spice runner. I've talked about Finn ad nauseum, so y'all know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Lando.
Here we go.
If we say no shadow of the Sith, because this is pre-shadow Sith coming out, no shadow of the Sith. What we know about Lando in the sequels so far is that in Bloodlines, he sends a message of support to Leia. And then we find him on Pisana and Tross. And he's just retired there. But he has to have some kind of knowledge of the galaxy for him to know that Leia got outed as Darth Vader's daughter. So that means he did nothing when Han Solo died. He did nothing when Luke died. He did nothing when Ben turned to the dark side. he did nothing when Luke's temple got destroyed. He just chilled out there. I hate that.
I did not think about that. Holy shit.
And then all the knowledge about what motivates Lando and why he's there is in the, before we get to Shadow of the Sith, is in the Tross visual dictionary and in the novelization.
Yep.
And I don't believe, what was it, Ray Carson who wrote the Tross novelization?
Yes.
That she came out with those ideas about Lando herself, which means it was somewhere in the script and they cut it. And considering he is the last legacy character that you have alive in these series, and you don't really give him any development, that is a failure.
What about wait, hold on, Chris. Are we just gonna forget Chewbacca exists?
I don't think Chewbacca really counts in this because he does.
He's a legacy character though.
But he's not like
They never give Chewbacca development in any.
I'll concede. Well, actually, I don't concede any of your points, but Chewbacca's moment where he's heartbroken over Leia, the moment at the end with the medal, the moment at the very beginning where he's playing games with Poe and Finn. That's like more moments that Chewbacca got than in the original trilogy. Chewbacca got screwed in A New Hope, not even being given a medal, and that this movie fixed that, and that's I think a very significant point for that character.
Dang.
I was going to make a joke with 3PO if we're counting legacy characters, which he gets the most amount of development out of everybody.
He died.
Yeah.
I'm surprisingly passionate about how they treated 3PO in this movie, just because I'm very much a droids rights activist, and they treat him like shit. This whole franchise, but Tross especially awfully. Like they just like every time he spoke, they're like, "Fuck you," basically. I'm like, why? He's just doing his job. And then like at the end, he's like, "I just want to see my friends one more time." I'm like, those aren't your
That
friends,
line was
3PO.
That was terrible.
I get you out of there. You need better friends. I think that the way they treated 3PO in that movie, I'm like, this is off. Why are they treating him like this? I know he's a little bit annoying, but like this is a lot. This is too much.
To me, I think it's like that's the exact same relationship he has with R2 though. Like R2 literally abuses 3PO, and that's how his friendships are. So to him, this is what a friendship means. So I think that line of looking at my friends was sentimental because that's how he knows he doesn't remember Anakin, he doesn't remember Obi-Wan, doesn't remember Padme, but he does remember them, and he remembers this is how people have treated him his whole life. This is what he loves. This is what he cares about. So when he said it, it was more of like, you're just like everyone else I've known, and this is why I care about you. So it's more.
I will say,
More question. Do
Bale
droids
has
not
treated him
remember
nicely.
things?
They erased his memory.
They erased his memory after Revenge.
Oh, but they
of the
brought it
Sith.
back after 10 seconds. Yeah, I forgot about that.
No, at the end of Revenge.
No.
of the
Revenge
Sith.
of
At the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, wiped
They
your memory.
his mind. Yeah, wiped
I haven't
his
seen that movie in
mind.
forever.
But they never wiped R2's mind.
No.
Which I feel like is the biggest fucking MacGuffin
Because
in
R2
all
can't
of Star Wars.
Can't speak basic, so
R2 doesn't snitch.
Yeah,
Yeah, R2's not a snitch. Yeah.
R2 is a way better droid.
R2 is not a rat.
No, go ahead.
I thought this was C-3PO's best movie. C-3PO is kind of messy himself. I literally just saw the Rebels episode where C-3PO actually ends up with the Ghost Crew, and he's concerned that they're thieves, so he calls the Empire on them. Like he's very messy, and if R2's having to deal with that kind of crap, and then C-3PO being asked like please stop talking, but he continues to talk, yeah, he's gonna get some shit kicked on him. But also, like, he was great in this movie. He had so many great moments. He made me laugh so hard. And, like, that moment where he just, like, was Jesse just mentioned about, last time to see my friends. That broke my heart. I was bawling so hard. I thought, the sequel trilogy really didn't give him very many moments. And I thought that this movie was perfect for that.
They shouldn't have put that in the trailer, though.
No.
I agree.
The marketing of the sequel trilogy in general was a lot of missteps. Like a lot.
I say
I
the marketing post The Force Awakens for anything in Star Wars.
Well, I thought the Last Jedi trailer and the posters were amazing, and
The posters were great.
Yeah,
And
the Last
Vanity Fair
Jedi promo was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good.
I
I thought the trailers gave out too much stuff in all three of the movies. And it, especially in this movie,
in general, like even if you look at Marvel and everything,
But
like, they literally put everything in the trailer.
I also feel like Lucasfilm was the best at doing trailers because they don't really show that much.
Right.
They give you just enough to make you excited.
Our comparison is Marvel, like for big trailers, who shows everything.
Yeah.
And then there's Lucasfilm, who shows not as much, but more than the average movie company.
Yeah, but like with Force Awakens, like making it seem like Finn was going to be the Jedi, and then in this movie revealing that Palpatine was going to be in it in the first place, I just think was a big mistake. They should have not done either.
Well, I mean,
no,
go ahead, Chris.
I have no problem with them revealing Palpatine in that first trailer.
I
What
agree.
I do have a problem with is putting his message in doggone Fortnite.
Agreed. I agree.
Here's the thing.
I think that was dumb as shit.
Most people who saw The Rise of Skywalker had no idea that that message was in Fortnite until after they'd seen it. So the issue didn't arise until they had found out that the message had been played. I didn't know. I played Fortnite at the time, rarely though, but I didn't know that there was a message from Palpatine that existed until like a year, like in 2020. Someone's like, "Oh yeah, there's a message from Palpatine in Fortnite." And I was like, "Oh, well, they didn't really market it that there was a message because I've never heard of it. My friends have never heard of it." So I think the big deal came up when people found out about it. They're like, "Oh, that's dumb," but most people hadn't heard it yet.
So Jesse, funny story about that. So the only reason why I played Fortnite was because of that. Because when they had marketed it.
Idiot.
Because I know, right? And it was a really well done. It was really well done. And I absolutely hate that because that would have, I think, it would have given the Rise of, because if you have that instead of like the music playing in that first couple of shots, which is good. Can you imagine him talking?
I think his message is garbage. I listened to it and I thought, this is definitely marketed for Fortnite. This is definitely not a Star Wars movie message because it sounds like it's targeted towards people, not to insult kids or Luke because you play Fortnite. It sounded like it was targeting people who couldn't fully grasp everything.
To see that, I only
you were saying something.
I was. Oh, sorry.
Oh, what? No, I don't even know what Fortnite is. What do you mean? I do.
Are you
never heard of it?
What even is that? I mean, I do kind of have to stick up for the promotion a bit, like on a more personal note, simply because I would not be here talking to you guys, because I would have never taken that leap of faith if I hadn't seen that trailer, that Rise of Skywalker teaser trailer, that moment in that theater, because I was like, literally never gonna touch Star Wars before 2019. 19 years ago, I was good. Never ever, I apologize in advance because I thought it was dorky, I was never gonna touch it. And then, in that moment, and there's a specific frame that I just remember so vividly, where Rey turns around after she jumps over the tie, and I see her face, and I'm just like, I'm going to see that movie. I don't know what it's about at all, but I'm gonna go see it in 10 days time. And I did, and I was like, I'm gonna make it my life's mission to meet Daisy Ridley and tell her I saw that trailer and you changed my life. And then I did 2 years later. And so I gotta stick up for that trailer a bit,
I like that trailer, that first one.
I will say, compared to what Revenge of the Sith trailer was.
Oh my god, yeah.
If we're gonna talk about terrible trailers, Revenge of the Sith pretty much gives you shot for shot for shot the
Revenge of
entire
the Sith
fucking
was
movie.
Spoiled months before it came out too.
Because they had a live
plot.
Well, they had a live feed where they were doing green screen shots, and it was on the website. So you could literally watch the live cam of them making the fucking movie.
And then the video game came out a few weeks before the film, and it was pretty. It had shots from the movie, and it pretty much it did have some AU kind of stuff in it, but it did just play out the film.
Yeah,
we should bring that back.
It's not just like a 2000s thing, just like reveal everything in the trailer and more.
I mean, I would have enjoyed sequel video gameizations of the movies.
I agree.
Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga exists. Okay?
Yeah, Lego Star Wars people, come on.
I'm talking about when the movies were coming out.
True.
Especially like, could you imagine the Battlefront engine running the sequel movies?
Ooh, that would have been cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on Battlefront's missed opportunity with the Battle of Exegol. Oh, it makes me so mad.
Yeah.
So mad.
I was gonna say for the Palpatine's message thing, because again, I don't want to interrupt people. The way they could have like done it is, I was thinking about this forever. You could have heard either the tail end or the full message, and then the post scene is like somehow Palpatine returns. They're listening to the message and they're talking about it.
Yeah,
too. I think that's a good idea. I think that could have been done.
And then you hear the last second of it, and then you hear the somehow Palpatine has returned.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I do understand that Palpatine and the Sith in general get cocky, and that's their downfall. But bro, you could have just showed up to a planet, announced your message, blew one up, and then dipped.
Yeah,
like, just announcing your message and giving them what was it, 18 days or 18 hours or something about 18.
72 hours.
Let me give them time to prepare. That's what Sith Lords do.
Oh, I mean, Palpatine loves the drama. He's an attention whore. There could have been so many different ways in the prequel era that he could have executed his plan, but no, he wanted to be Chancellor. He wanted to be in front of the Senate. He wanted to give those speeches. He wanted to get the praise, which is why in this movie, the first thing he does when he like is at full power is he like lets the fans cheer him on. He's addicted to the fame.
Yeah, I love all of the Exegol stuff.
We could talk about the missed opportunity that is the Sith Eternal.
Yes. Yes, we could. That's the one thing that disappoints me about this. Well, not one thing. One of the few things. Yeah, but with the Palpatine thing, I think we know for sure that he did this all as a power thing because the Sith like consume fear. That is what drives them. That is what empowers them. And if he had just like shown up, blown up a planet after saying his message, then left, the fear is not, obviously it's there, like, oh, he did it. But I feel like there's an even bigger fear factor of like, imagine today a random secret organization that was like, the only example I can think of is Hitler. If he were to drop a message from somewhere and we had no, like back in like the 50s and say, I'm still alive, I'm going to come after you if you don't do this. And if we had no idea where he was, we didn't know what he was going to do. I feel like the fear factor there is he is out there. We have no idea where he is. We have no idea what he's capable of, but he is coming. And I feel like that fear factor is much more bigger, much more powerful for Palpatine and lifts him up higher because now no one is safe and no one knows where he's going to go next or what he's going to do next. Like if that comparison was kind of like, that's the only one I could think of because that's the only person that I could compare him to. But that is what the Sith do. They're not very like sporadic. It's very, look at me, fear me. Now I'll attack you once you're all scared of me. Because they're not as strong without the fear.
No, that's fair.
Are we talking about the rise of Palpatine or the rise of Skywalker, though? What are we talking about?
Well, it's both, right? Because the light and the dark is in constant battle with each other, so you kind of have to have that dynamic, just like in the original trilogy with Vader and Luke,
in which they have beautifully set up in The Last Jedi. But what do I know?
I feel like the big thing that a lot of people don't, and this is also a problem with the sequels as a whole, is you had to rely on so much external media for a lot of it too, like not even just the Rise of Skywalker to understand a lot of things, but if you were in that external media, we know that Palpatine planned everything. And in The Last Jedi, when Snoke died, which I had spoiled before I saw the movie, that's one of the reasons I did. One of the reasons I struggled with this.
That sucks.
That was a beautiful moment. That was a shocking moment.
I actually had the whole Last Jedi spoiled before I saw it. But
I'm sorry.
When I saw that moment, I was thinking, wait a minute. So Palpatine is saying there can be no empire without him. He's said this since the Aftermath book, which stupid that you need to go to a book to see this. But he's been saying over and over, there cannot be anything without me. And in The Last Jedi, we see that Snoke has died, and obviously we're seeing that the light and dark are now rising at the same time. And it continues into The Last Jedi the same way, because I think Palpatine is allowing that to continue in this movie. I think they still capture that. They just show Snoke was only a way of showing that, and Kylo is being allowed to rise in the dark because of Palpatine, because he's had this plan the whole time. He will not allow anything to pass until he can show himself. And I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it's kind of like a...
Yeah.
To me personally, it's just deeply unsatisfying. We were done with that. The franchise was moving away from that concept, Sith Jedi, into something new. To me, again, my biggest issue with this film will forever remain Rey. That is the biggest issue I take up with this, because it's, I mean, I don't want to throw out buzzwords. There is a bit of misogyny in this film, the way she's treated and reduced down to tropes. I'm not going to even touch upon Rose Tico. To sideline an Asian female character down to, 20 seconds, so you can replace her with your friend in a slug when you can put her on in a mission with her friends, it's unforgivable to me. So to me, The Rise of Skywalker will forever remain my biggest issue is Rey. And it number one, it broke the monomyth. That's number one. This film breaks it. It's not even a journey anymore. This is a ride. And by the time I was done with it, that emotional fuel was drained out of me. Because it broke the monomyth, something that George Lucas used heavily, Joseph Campbell's monomyth, to outline the story. He used that framework. And this film, there it is. I have it too somewhere right here.
I was like, this is my issue right here.
It broke the monomyth. It's a bad movie because it broke the it broke the magic, it broke the mystery, broke the space opera aspect of Star Wars, because it tries to explain everything. I don't give a fuck that Palpatine returned, how many ships are here, how many planets, 15. I don't care about any of that. That's not what Star Wars is about. When you look at like New Hope, when you look at Empire Strikes Back, there's so many character moments, so much happening with the characters themselves. The trial of Luke becoming being Vader's son, like none of that is explored here, because this movie is too fucking busy trying to be everything to everyone, ended up being nothing to me. I want to preface to me.
That's fair.
So Rey will remain a problem for me forever. It will. It cannot undo the damage it did to her. I don't like the Rey Palpatine. I find that incredibly misogynistic, and they did that because fanboys did not like Lady Jedi too much power. Period. You cannot like sway me differently from that. Her arc was established. She had a catharsis. The Heron's journey was right. We had it. It was right there, and they fucking blew it. And there it is,
right there.
I love you. I mean, we're strangers, but I have all those books.
I hear what you're saying. And I came out of Last Jedi still having open questions about her background, especially with that beautiful mirror scene where she's in the cave. Who is she? Where does she come from? For me, her journey in Rise of Skywalker really resonated with me, because one of the key themes of Star Wars is found family. And I came from a background where I was just the latest generation of a cycle of abuse. I grew up in a broken home. My mom was abused. My grandmother, my grandfather was abused, and so on and so forth. And I was determined to break that abuse, that cycle, in spite of what's in my blood, in spite of my family name. And for me, Rey's story is not just the found family, but also breaking the cycle of abuse, choosing another name, choosing to not be a Palpatine, choosing not to fall for that darkness, instead choosing light and hope. And it really inspired me, especially when the movie came out. I was going through a hard time. I was dealing with a lot of therapy issues with how I was feeling about my family. I was coming to terms with the fact that was my situation with my family. I had an abusive childhood. I had to accept that. And so for me, that story really, really resonated with me. That's why it's one of my favorite movies.
I think that's like the beautiful thing about Star Wars, that people can find everything to resonate with. Like when Kylo Ren in the first movie, when he was revealed to be Han Solo's kid, I was like, I relate to you immediately. I understand your character immediately. You don't need to tell me anything. I don't even know. No one needs to like give me like flashbacks to his childhood. I know exactly what his childhood was like, because it was my childhood. So I completely get that. That's also why I was heartbroken when I went into a 6-month depression when he turned into a shirt. But I feel like for me, with like I don't think any narrative plot point is inherently bad, right? Rey Palpatine, I feel like could have narratively worked, right?
Yeah.
If they had established that earlier on, right? And if they had like an actual plan. The problem was, I don't know if anyone else plays like TTRPGs or like D&D or anything like that.
Yep.
Collaborative storytelling.
Represent.
Yeah.
You're supposed to yes and. You're supposed to yes and. So if you don't have a plan and you're handing off the torch, you have to yes and what the person's saying. You can't go back and be like, actually. I'm going to do this. Like, it doesn't work, and then it destroys the fun for people, right? So like, even if you didn't like The Last Jedi, even if you didn't like The Last Jedi, you have to make it make sense and bring it to a satisfying conclusion. And for me, like The Rise of Skywalker, there's lots of things that happen in it, and I'm like, okay, why is this happening? What is the narrative significance of this? Where are we bringing this moment to? And does that moment get a satisfying ending? I literally rewatched The Rise of Skywalker before we got on here, and I have so many notes. I'm like, where, why? Like, why did this happen? Like, it's just very much like the scene where Rey was like, I will earn your brother's lightsaber, and then 5 minutes later, Leia's handing her back the lightsaber when she's done essentially nothing. So I'm like, so what was the point of that line? Because it did nothing narratively other than infuriate me by being mildly sexist. So it's like, and I'm like, so I'm like that's why I feel like there's no inherently bad plot points. Even like Ben's death, which hurt me deeply, like there's a way that could have been done well. But the thing is, we see this man drag himself out of a pit by himself after doing this whole little redemption thing. Ow is his last
only
line,
words Ben Solo says.
Only words Ben Solo says. After we see him being Han Solo's kid, and that's like, oh my goodness, because that story of being to leave that abusive cycle, that's Ben's story, right? And it doesn't matter because he gets replaced by the golden child, that's Rey. That's why I'm like, oh, and it's like, what does that say to like the lost kids that like you just die after you save the golden kid who's always been perfect? Like that's for me, like that hurt me. Like that when I saw that, because Ben did all that work to get to where he was. Yeah, it happened shortly, but like in the narrative mythos, things happen quickly like that. So it's like he doesn't have to go to therapy or whatever, or like walk 100 miles on his knees. Like in the narrative sense, he did what he had to do. And then he dies, and I'm like, I don't know. So it just felt narratively unsatisfying in comparison to like how the storytelling happened in previous movies. For me.
No, that's really fair.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's justified, 100%.
No, that's absolutely justified. No, go ahead, JJ.
I was just gonna say, in a film as a whole, when you look at it, like I'm not a filmmaker, obviously, so I can't make like critical judgments on that. Like I've never held a camera in my life, but if I'm piecing a film, it's just a connection of slideshow points. The movie never, they never slowed. It never slows down. Like I watched a review a couple of months ago. If I find it, I'll link it on my Twitter. A person pointed out that it's the only film when there's no grand landings of ships on planets, which every Star Wars film has. And it's very prominent because it tightens the pace of the film, number one, because it shows you the size of the space that you're inhabiting at the moment. So it kind of grounds the characters and it sets them up. This film does none of that. Even the opening epic sequence of Kylo Ren on Exegol, which was really well done, you still don't see where the ship landed. How big is the ship? How big is the planet? Like, it's just missing some of these elements that other movies have done way better because it's so fucking busy and wants to keep going and going and going and fake you out and emotionally manipulate you and show you MacGuffins and show you all the legacy characters and show you medals and show you all these things that we have collected over the past 40 years to tell you, oh, look, Star Wars thing, a Star Wars thing, look, a cool Star Wars thing. Like, it emotionally, it did nothing for these characters. To me, Rey, Palpatine, Skywalker was the biggest letdown because I am the biggest Rey nobody stand, if you wanna put it that way. To me, that was incredibly satisfying because Rian Johnson saw that in The Force Awakens, this is a character struggling to leave her past behind. So he's like, I'm going to free you from that. You're nothing. Now figure it out. That's her challenge. And when she learns that she's a nobody, it's in the exact same moment that Luke Skywalker learns that his dad is Darth Vader. Same time, FYI. Second movie in a trilogy. So those two parallels are paralleling. Both of these characters were told something they don't want to hear. Your dad's an evil dude. You are a nobody. So now they're challenged with that. Now you have to figure it out, which Luke does in Return of the Jedi. But Rey is like, nah, fuck it, you're a Palpatine, deal with it. And what does that do for her, anyways? Because Palpatine is like, I'm gonna give you all of this if you what was it? He's offering
You
her
can
something.
have all of that. You can have all of
She
this.
doesn't want it. There's
Just
no challenge
me.
there.
You can save your friend. You can stop all of this.
But there's no challenge there. Like she's not gonna accept it.
I
Like,
will
there's no
say
challenge.
this. I will say this, JJ. Would it have been better if it was Rey nobody, but she ended up taking the Skywalker name? Would you have been okay with that?
I mean, I get the found family theme within Star Wars, but does it have to be every single project?
No,
You know what I mean? Like,
that's
why-
fair.
The thing
That's
is, like,
fair.
why can't this character, and again, like a prominent female, can stand on her own? Why couldn't she do that?
No,
why do
that's
you have to why does she have to be reduced down to Luke 2.0, which is essentially what she becomes?
Yeah.
Like, look at her hairstyle in the Force Awakens. When she flashes back to her childhood, like screaming for her parents, same hair, same little 3 buns. And at The Last Jedi, the hair is down. That is like most women and femmes, they kind of, when they change their hair, it's a signaling of change, of growth, of femininity. And boom, it's back up again in those 3 childish buns that she had in The Force Awakens when she was a child. Like, to me, those two things just do not work for me. I find them very reductive to a character. Again, it broke monomyth. That's my biggest problem with this film. And it's just narratively unsatisfying.
Yeah, but
so I want to say two things. Well, yeah, okay, all right. Hulu, what have we here?
That conspiracy cantina. Oh my god, I was.
What's up, DePaul? Or is
it Ryan?
No, it's DePaul.
it's DePaul.
It's DePaul.
I'm just making sure it's DePaul. You know, like we could have a rare sighting. Of
Yeah,
another
X-Core
conspiracy
sighting.
Cantina of
Hope
X-Core
he's doing
gamer
okay.
skills.
Hi, DePaul.
But I want to respond to what Scott Summers 2020 said. I think J.J. Abrams struggles with sequels. So I don't blame Tross on J.J. Abrams or Chris Terrio. Well, I blame Chris Terrio for the Rose part. I do, because his response to that was just utter nonsense. And the reason why I say I don't blame them for anything other than that is because, Luke, I'm going to present something.
Okay.
Let's see.
Evidence.
Oh, how is this gonna work in our template?
This.
Okay.
Once it comes up. This.
Oh yeah, we're all on enjoyers.
You don't say 2.5 weeks before your film comes out on
What date is
Vanity Fair. It's December 2nd,
December 2nd.
2019.
Okay,
So
okay.
like 16 days before the film comes out. You don't say something is going to be a part of your movie and then it's not. Unless
100%.
it's
September
unless it's
7th,
taken from you. Like you
Yikes.
didn't know that someone was going to do that.
No,
Because
you're
those are
absolutely-
like
that's
we're going to
fair.
touch on everybody's origins. And I guess you could say they touched on Poe's origins by saying he, used to be a spice runner, but like if you're saying that's touching on his origins, like
That's pretty. Like that's just like scratching the surface.
But that's even
Okay.
that's not even
But-
suggested in the previous 2 films, and all of a sudden it's just there. Like,
but
is
then
that...
the other
But
thing is
doesn't
you had
that-
the Poe Dameron comics.
Yeah.
That's never
Yeah.
mentioned.
And then they had to make a novel to connect it all and make it all make sense.
But that goes back to what I mean about the marketing of these movies. If you go further back to the lead up to Force Awakens, they heavily allude to the fact that Finn's a Jedi, which
Yeah.
you know,
They should've.
and then what was it? I think it had to have been Last Jedi where Ron was saying that they're trying to steer very closely to Empire and follow that template, which of course it's so subversive it doesn't quite do that. And so I just think that they pulled too many fake outs with the marketing that it set up a lot of people for false expectations, which
yeah,
led to a lot of people getting very disappointed. I personally like all the sequel movies, but I do remember coming out of Last Jedi going, wow, that was really different, and that was not at all what I was reading in any of the interviews leading up to the movie, which was fine, but that would annoy people. That would piss people off.
No,
I would
yeah.
say there's a difference between expectation subversion, and which I would say is more like the carpet being ripped from under you, and then a straight up lie.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
no,
would
you're
say-
right.
Oh, they straight up lied. Oh, they straight up lied.
Well,
100%.
and I don't even think they intended to lie, because I think even when you look at what John Boyega says throughout shooting, in the interviews leading up to it, and then as
Yes.
soon as he sees it, his whole body language, his whole demeanor
Shifts.
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a shift.
Dramatic.
There's a shift.
Yeah. Adam Driver was doing ADR in his closet in November before the movie came out. Like, and I feel like that's why the mask came back, because like
Yep.
Raylos are insane. We're looking like that's not Adam Driver. Like when he's walking around, that's not Adam Driver's physique whatsoever. They put some dude in a mask and have him walk around, and then had Adam Driver doing lines in his closet. And like, what I want to know what happened. I want to be a fly on the wall, because there's another movie out there that exists. That
I desperately want there to be a book that discusses the
And the is
planning.
being broken.
Well, that goes into the planning of these 3 movies. I especially want to know, because I think the biggest wrench in whatever plan they had was the death of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think they had big plan, like, because the way it came out to me, it seemed like Force Awakens was Han Solo passing the baton. Last Jedi was Luke Skywalker passing the baton.
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher was going to pass, or Leia was going to pass the baton in 9. Of course, she passed away. So, you know,
I do want to say though, as much as I love Han Solo, and we knew Harrison Ford wasn't going to stick around for long in one movie, it should not have been Han's movie. The first one should have been Leia's movie, because arguably A New Hope is Leia's movie.
Agreed.
So it should have been her movie.
That's actually a good point.
And if we're talking passing the batons, couldn't someone pass a baton to Finn? Because even in the Tross novelization, it shows that when it gets to the third film, he's the third wheel in the heroes.
Yeah.
Because you know, like, Finn is talking about when he's mourning Leia, he's like, yeah, like, it was obvious her, focus was on Poe and Rey, but she did set some things aside for me. Like, I'm just like,
I can imagine your pain reading everything after the fact. That has to be painful.
Yeah,
That has to be painful.
Okay, go ahead, Hereth.
I was gonna say, because again, talking about JJ's points and everyone's points about like studio interference, that's my biggest issue I have with this movie. Is I have no issues with the story side of things. It's all the technical things that went behind the film with Lucasfilm and Disney.
Yeah.
As much as people don't want to deny it, it happened.
And it wasn't Lucasfilm too. It was all Disney that ruined how this movie could have been, because they were like, no, we're going by the trilogy. It has to be a trilogy. They say, can we have 2 movies? No, you can't have 2 movies. Has to be 1. Can we push back the release date? No, it has to be in December.
Yeah, those are strange.
well, how do you? how do you know that though? And
They posted I can't remember who it was.
I've seen those articles too, I
posted an
believe.
article.
Yeah.
It wasn't even. It was like last year that this started coming out. That Disney had been the ones who had said, "You can't release this."
Which
here.
Which makes sense. Because Warner Brothers did the same thing with Guillermo del Toro in the Hobbit films.
Yeah.
He originally wanted them to only be 2 films, but Warner Brothers said, nah, and New Line were like, nah, you're making a third. Like,
It should be in one movie. It's a children's book this big.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
So you have these studios making these decisions and kind of like not letting it breathe. I feel like
I will.
Rise of Skywalker to me feels like a committee film. Like there were so many fingers in that pot, and you can feel all of them.
And as a person that was looking to become an editor and as a film major, that was my original major. They talked about actively, the film was so rushed that the person was editing it as they were shooting the movie. That's how it was originally edited. It was like they would shoot a scene, be like, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this.
I will say Bob Iger did recently come out and say that mistakes were made with the release schedules for both, not just Lucasfilm and Marvel, but Pixar as well, and they're actively slowing things down. I think that the upcoming board meeting is going to be really interesting because it's Iger's real first chance to say what they're going to change from a release perspective, what they're going to slow down. Of course, Celebration is going to have happened by then, so whatever gets announced at Celebration, I'm very curious to see how that compares to Iger's vision of like slowing stuff down. I see Austin just said, Iger said mistakes were made. Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and that's the one. And that's the one thing about Iger that I feel like after he came back after Penis Face. That's how I'm gonna.
We call him the Bad Bob.
Yeah, the bad
Bad
Bob.
Bob Paycheck.
Penis looking man.
Mr.
like,
Cut everything
when
for
he-
budget, JPEG.
Exactly.
Bob Paycheck.
Exactly. Like, here's the thing. Like, at least Iger's able to come in and say, "Hey, mistakes were made. We're not going to try to make these mistakes." Because if you think about it, Solo in particular, if you want to talk about mistakes, that movie not being released in December is a fucking
Big
crime.
mistake.
We have to move it
Yeah.
up for Mary Poppins because why?
I mean,
It is
I would say
really-
that movie existing is a mistake, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, that's just you. We might have a conversation about that. But like,
Wait, what?
genuinely, and this is gonna sound really weird. Solo is it's not one of my favorites, but I enjoy watching it
I don't.
because well, you
I love
have it
Solo.
for other
I
reasons.
love Solo.
You have it.
Yeah.
You have it for other reasons, Chris.
Mhm.
And I completely get that.
I think
get it.
Should have been a
big-
Lando movie.
The big issue with
I agree.
Yeah, that's
I would have
fair.
loved a Lando movie.
I would have
Lando
loved
would've
Donald
been better.
Glover more as Lando, but Jesse, go ahead.
I think the big issue with the minute Disney got Star Wars, they were like, "All right, it's time. We've waited." It hadn't even been long. It had
10
been
years?
7 years since Revenge of the Sith. They're like, "All right, we're gonna get everything out. We're gonna come up with a plan," and they didn't make a plan. The sequel trilogy never actually had a fully three. If you're gonna make a trilogy, there needs to be a story for the trilogy that is agreed upon by everyone, not changed
No.
by every
Wait a
director.
minute.
There's never a
Here's
never a
my
plan.
take.
I'm gonna push back on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my take on this.
Yeah.
So
Hold on,
they
hold
buy
on,
it in
hold on.
2012. The first movie comes out in 2015. That I think is a fine timeline. A little rush, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
like,
when you look, when-
because then it went movie for
Yeah,
like
no,
year.
and
Yeah.
then that's where I
Yeah,
agree
okay.
with you,
Mhm.
because George started writing Phantom Menace and started plotting things out in 1994 or 3, I believe.
It was actually after Return of the Jedi, Chris.
No, but I mean where he sat down and he's like, "All right, this is like we're starting the prequel writing
yeah,
set."
90. I think it was 91 or 92.
Yeah. Okay.
It was
I think it was
early
94. You can watch it in the beginning documentary on the Phantom Menace DVD.
Well, it's in the archives book.
Well,
Hold
my
on.
Yeah,
my point
so-
wasn't my point wasn't that I think people got my point wrong. That like the directors shouldn't have say on the movie. It's the sequel trilogy never had a end goal.
No,
It's
no,
kind of
and
like
Yeah.
there was no end story point, and I think that like the original trilogy, George Lucas obviously he had Star Wars in mind, but he's like, I don't know if there's going to be another one, but he still made them. And then the prequel trilogy, he had an end goal. The sequel trilogy didn't have an end goal, and I think this movie suffered from. I love this movie, but this movie suffered from that so hard because when J.J. Abrams came back, he didn't know he was coming back. He thought he was just doing The Force Awakens. They're like, all right, Colin Trevorrow's out. You're not using Duel of the Fates. Thank goodness he didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank God
Yeah.
that
Duel
trilogy
of
needed to go into the abyss.
3 good things.
Gosh.
Yeah, and then he's
chaotic.
like, okay, I only have until what? Colin Trevorrow left in 2018, just before was it just before, or just after Solo? He's like, you have until December 2019 to come up with a story. So I honestly, with the Rise of Skywalker, as this may sound very stupid, I don't think they could have done it any better with the timeline they were given by Disney, because
I
if they
agree.
had, it would have
agree.
just been even worse.
Or you have $1 billion fucking dollars on your account. You hire a competent director and a writer.
Hey, like I said, I don't blame
I
JJ.
stand-
Somebody
yeah,
with those shit at the in the first
Yeah.
movie doesn't answer any of the fucking mystery boxes that you're so known for, and then the second director comes in, let me try to fucking make sense of all this. He tries, whether people like it or not, pointless, and then outrage over the choices in The Last Jedi. I'm like, fans, look at YouTube. They really hated Rose. Get rid of her. Ray nobody? They hate that. Nope, bring back Palpatine. Like retcon, because they were paying attention to fucking YouTube bros and Reddit threads, and they made a movie based on that. Because again, why would you bring J.J. Abrams again? Because The Force Awakens was such a success? Sure, why not? But what did that movie actually do except threw shit at the wall and copied New Hope? Like, you had all this money, you could have hired a competent writer and competent director.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
it gave us
And
one of
to
the
be
best
fair, yeah, I
original
mean-
characters in Star Wars and Finn, but
I will say. I will
I
say
love
that-
Ray.
just
Don't get me
find-
wrong, but what did he do with
Yeah.
Ray and Finn? Nothing.
well, with Finn, he
J.J.
did a
Abrams.
lot. more
Yeah.
than everybody else did.
I still stand
but
by what
to-
Boyega said. You know, JJ didn't have to come in and fix your shit.
Yep.
He didn't.
Mhm.
Especially with what he was given, he did not.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna blame like when we're dealing with the mouse or any big company like that. I'm like you give people like JJ Abrams my enemy. You're giving him too much credit, man. No one could fuck up that badly. That'd be impressive, but on their own, no, that's not possible. So I feel like blaming JJ Abrams or like any individual for what happened is ridiculous. But for me, I feel like a story has to stand on its own. Like all this stuff, like the books outside, the technicalities, all those things can exist, and I could bring the caveat. But when I'm talking about whether I like the movie or not, I'm talking about what happened in it. From
fair.
beginning to
That's fair.
end. Like I could go like we could talk about all the behind the scenes stuff. Okay, cool. I could acknowledge all of that. I'm talking about what I'm looking at when I'm seeing the screen. That my brain turns off everything outside when I step into the theater and look at the big screen. And if what I'm seeing is like this does not match up with what came before, like the director, as soon as like when you write something, as soon as it gets out into the world, is no longer yours. I don't care what you have to say about it anymore. Your work has to stand on its own and speak for itself. If it cannot do that, now I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna say it's bad. Like saying like if the movies are bad or good or not, I think that's kind of like slightly reductive. Does it go out? Does it accomplish what it's sought to do? Right. The only thing I feel like it accomplished that it sought out to do for me was entertain. Right. It doesn't. I feel like it did not give like a satisfying conclusion to many endings, especially Finn. Especially Finn. Like I feel like that's like I love Ben and I love Rey and all those characters, but as a Black person, what they did with Finn was so deeply hurtful. From The Force Awakens was so deeply hurtful. Because when they tried to do colorblind casting, but you can't do colorblind casting in a story as political as Star Wars. Their race is always going to be inherently there in the background of their character. You cannot ignore it. And they tried to ignore it. They tried to ignore the fact that he was a Black man, and you can't do it. Because when you think of a Black man as a stormtrooper who was stolen from his family as a child to be in a war for what is essentially a stand-in for Nazis, like how do you not like see the connections there? And then how do you not do anything with that character and have him standing around in the last movie in so many moments being like, Rey, I had to tell you something.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Hello? like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that was so deeply hurtful. And like, we could talk about all the outside stuff of what like their thought process behind it, but on screen, on text, what they did is not explainable, and it's not.
I think to your point, I think if 2023, if Force Awakens was to be made today, that would not have happened. I think there's a greater. I think there's a greater social awareness of how terrible that was, and I think they would have done a better job.
You think so? In 2023?
Well, I think they're not, they're not moving fast enough for me, but I will say I do think Lucasfilm, between the books, what they're doing now with some of the stories, they're getting better at being inclusive, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. I want more. Right. I'm a queer person. I would love a lot more. God damn it. But they're still trying. And the different arms of Disney are trying too. And so we'll get there, and I'm going to keep pushing for it and keep bitching about it. Yeah. I swear to God, if I hear any bullshit from Celebration like Star Wars Eclipse, I'm going to be so disappointed. But they are trying, they are doing better, but it's moving slow, and it's always frustrating.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't think you're gonna have any. I don't think you're gonna have any worry about Eclipse, because I'm pretty sure that fucker's dead.
I hope it is.
No, it's
that
dead.
fucker is.
I'm
dead.
not so sure.
No, they literally said the trailer was complete BS, and the game's not coming out until at least 2027.
I'm not so sure.
God. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get my hopes up on that.
Well, but also to your point, Chris, they are literally they're doing a really good job. Like, I mean, look at Acolyte. Look at the diversity in the Acolyte cast alone. Like, it's insane how well they're like that cast is being put together.
Yeah, let's hope the show's good though.
Yeah, let's hope it is good, because it's got a lot of promise to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I
feel like
absolutely
these
and I
changes-
it,
sorry.
no, go
I
ahead.
feel like these changes only happen because fans criticize what happened with Finn.
Yeah,
Finn,
you
the
have
treatment
to.
of Finn
Yeah.
and the way fans rallied or tried to rally around him as best as they could, that set up, I think, like a domino effect within not just Star Wars, in the industry. So for
Yeah.
better or worse, like I hate that John Boyega had to be basically like Jesus up on the cross, but like
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, unless like that happened and then Star Wars realized their mistake, all of this turnabout like with like Ahmed Best and the way that I'm when I said this on Twitter the other day, like the last Mandalorian episode gave me a lot of hope that they'll like redeem themselves with how they did not stand behind their marginalized actors whatsoever, especially with their like statement during like the way that they handled Kenobi with Reva and
Yeah.
I, like that gave me real hope, right? And I'm like, I'm glad that they're doing it now. And it's a slow process, but yeah. So, but I think that like without the mistreatment of Finn and like fans reacting to that, none of like this advancement would have happened because they're like, oh, what we're doing is fine.
No,
Unfortunately, corporations and large production companies have to learn by burning their hands on the stove, so to speak. And you know, that's the way it is, unfortunately. And I do think that if what happened to John Boyega hadn't happened, I don't think we would have seen the protection that Moses Ingram got from Ewan McGregor and the rest of Lucasfilm.
Probably
which
not,
was super fucking cool.
Well, you might have got it from Ewan because of what he saw what Hayden went through.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a
And
good
he might
point.
have been like,
Even Jake Lloyd too, a child.
Poor boy.
Oh my
Poor
god.
boy, yeah.
I thought we were going to say Ahmed Best, but because that one opportunity.
Well, that one, yeah.
But we know the reason why I said Hayden is because we know Ewan and Hayden were close.
Very close.
Right.
And so and then I guess with also the power of social media, because if Ewan had stood up and said something in like 2003 about the treatment of Hayden
down immediately.
Well, no, not that he would have been smacked down. We wouldn't have heard it.
Oh no!
Because you know, like we didn't even have YouTube then, so it, you know, it wouldn't have been like it would have. I guess maybe it would have ended up in a newspaper article and on theforce.net. If any of y'all you remember that?
Oh God!
That's
God!
But you know, so I think there is the advent of social media, but it also makes it a lot worse. Because John Boyega even said recently, I think this was the article that came out a week or two ago, that he feels not vindicated, but he feels better about things that happen in Star Wars because of what they've learned and how they've supported, you know, Moses Ingram.
Wasn't he? Didn't he say? Wasn't he quoted as saying comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
Yeah,
too.
he was said that he was comfortable with the situation with Star Wars.
I think.
No, go ahead, Jesse.
I think just off of all that happened with John Boyega and Ahmed Best and everyone from like prequels to sequels, I think learning what they did from those is what allowed the High Republic to be what it is today. I think the High Republic is the birth from this hatred, and they're seeing like these characters have, like, we have been horrible to these characters. We haven't treated them properly. We haven't been inclusive. We haven't allowed them to flourish. We've always favored like the straight white character, pretty much.
Yep.
Well, not pretty much. That is the truth.
Yeah.
And,
that's the truth. Yeah.
And so they were like, you know what? It's time that we completely flip that. Here's the High Republic. And now that people have seen, like, the High Republic is one of the most successful Star Wars medias in history. Like, obviously it will never hit the same level as the movies because it's a book and not everyone can read and not everyone likes to read, but it is still like this medium of showing, okay, we are learning from our mistakes. And I think now going forward, if they were to hopefully, I really hope so, continue the story from the Rise of Skywalker with Rey, with Finn, I honestly think, truthfully, that they shouldn't be fully in the same project. I think they should get their own individual projects. That's my personal thing. I think they should give their own spotlights.
That would be cool, and then you can have like their own shows. I mean, you can have them cross.
Not even a show. Just I think if you were wanting to get to that point, I think Finn needs something fun. When Kris and I first talked about the Rise of Skywalker, I was very much in agreement that Finn to me was a character that that was my favorite sequel character. I loved Finn, and I agree with Kris wholly that Finn was completely thrown to the side.
Absolutely.
The Rise of Skywalker, you can tell that they had some sort of idea. Like, would they maybe had some idea that they were going to write a backstory when he's talking with Jannah, and talking with Rey. There was something, but they didn't treat it properly. Mm-hmm. And I think that now Finn deserves something beyond that by himself first. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be Rey and Finn. It should be Finn, Rey and Finn back together again. Because I think that is how you could handle a situation like that perfectly, because going from the Rise of Skywalker, obviously we will never change what happened in the Rise of Skywalker, which is some people a good thing, some people a bad thing, some people don't care. So how can we change? Like, I think now they're looking, how can we change this story in better ways? How can we add to this story? How can we amplify this story? Obviously it'll never change how it was in 2019, but like we've seen, Shadow of the Sith is building these characters beyond what the sequel trilogy failed to do for them.
And I mean, to kind of segue this into somehow Palpatine Return, one of the biggest memes in Star Wars history.
That's why I can't take him seriously as a villain. Like, I think Brooke said it in the comments.
Yeah, he's just been memed to hell.
It's John.
So here's the thing. The Mandoverse as a whole is going to be telling on screen what everybody that has read the books, that has done all the extra content, has already known. How he returned. They're gonna flip that statement on its head. That's what I feel like they're going to do with Mando, and what they're trying to do with Mando is that they're trying to explain these things. Well, yes, you shouldn't have to do it because it should have been in the movie.
That's what they've had to do since the prequels. I mean, that's what Clone Wars was. The show was to fill in some of the bullshit. Sorry,
but I will say the difference between the Clone Wars and the sequel trilogy is the Clone Wars, while it does to some people develops well and some people develops terribly, Anakin's character in service of like showing we did not need to see the Clone Wars to have the prequel story A, B, C.
Thank you.
But with the sequels, granted, like, having read Legends, I don't need to know how Palpatine came back, because it's essentially like the same thing. They cloned him, he hopped into it, they couldn't contain him. Like, cool. I guess the issue with the sequel trilogy when it comes to needing things explained, for me, it's the scope. I don't know what the scope of this trilogy is, because it all happens within a year and some change.
Yep, true.
And we don't see how much of these events affect the galaxy.
Agreed.
If we're just going by the movies, though, I would make the same arguments about the prequels. In my opinion, I think the script is terrible. What George Lucas does to female characters, especially Revenge of the Sith, where you only have one female that says anything in the whole movie, and that he's writing the script on a yellow legal pad while they're filming, stuff like that. Like I don't think Star Wars in general is put on a pedestal by people that are like film buffs and teachers and whatever. It's a mess, but it's my mess. It's a ridiculous mess. There's space wizards, there's laser swords, there's force powers, and it brings in all these different influences from all over the place. So I just think that, I've always had this attitude with Star Wars, because since I was a little kid and I got bullied for my Return of the Jedi lunch pail, people always look down on Star Wars. And I think that as there's more Star Wars content, we have to collectively be very careful when we're criticizing the art of Star Wars. I'm hearing here some very awesome, valid, wonderful arguments and opinions, and I think everybody is right in their own way. But outside of this group, there's a lot of people that are attacking Star Wars because, oh my God, there's female characters. Oh my God, there's people of color. They're trying to make us more gay. All that stuff. We just have to be a little careful. approaching Star Wars, because there is like the bad element that's wanting to like ruin everything for us, and so that's just like that's my main point.
Which is why I always say when I say Finn, if I'm going the route of Finn should have been a Jedi, Finn should have been a Jedi along with Rey.
Agreed.
Yeah. Finn
100%.
being trained by Leia, Rey being trained by Luke. You have your different paths come together. Boom.
I still don't know why Finn. I'll say this till I'll die on this hill. They made me believe going into Force Awakens, Finn was the main character. He was the person that was going to go on the hero's journey. And I was really thrown. I love Rey, but I was really thrown off by Rey initially.
I feel the trailer really.
I did cheer when she grabbed that. When she grabbed the saber.
Yeah,
I did cheer.
I mean, coming from like an outsider's perspective, because I obviously didn't watch Star Wars at the time. And this film was huge, like massive, especially in London. Wherever you would go, they would be talking about not only Daisy Ridley, John Boyega together, not just Daisy Ridley, but together. That's how it was marketed to not even just to the general audience, but to people who didn't even watch Star Wars. So when I eventually watched it, that's how taken back I was.
I remember the opening shot was of Finn in the desert, and I thought the way that trailer progressed, it made it look like he was the main character. And then with the poster with the lightsaber, oh my God, English language. So it was a bit misleading, I'll say, but I still enjoyed Rey getting that lightsaber.
Oh, absolutely.
The Mjolnir moment.
I mean,
I compared to that.
Finn popping up in that first trailer, man. I don't know about you, B, but I don't remember seeing that many N-words in one space on Twitter.
Oh my God!
I was gonna say that when he popped up, when I first saw that trailer, I screamed because I was like, "Oh, there's someone there!" Because it just like there's someone just jumped up. I was like, "What the heck? What's going on?"
Yeah.
Fuck that man's gotta be sweating. It's fucking hot.
Off of the discourse of somehow Palpatine returned, I never really thought that was a stupid line. I thought he didn't even need to say it, but I also thought, okay, he said it. But the thing is, people were like, "How come he couldn't explain it?" And I was like, "Dude,
how would he know?
How would Poe know the exact in that moment?" I'm like really saying if I don't know if Elvis came back to life right now, you'd be like somehow Elvis returned.
I just have a problem with Palpatine return in general. I don't have a problem with how he said it, the delivery of that line. I mean, Oscar Isaac did look like he was dying inside when he said it. But I don't care that he said it. I just
funny.
Exactly. But I hate that he came back. You do not need Palpatine in this film at all.
I will disagree. I will disagree with you. I'll disagree with you on that one.
He fucking died in the Return of the Jedi.
But
no, he returned.
But JJ,
he died before.
But JJ, think about it. Think about it though. But think about this though. Think about it. Okay, it makes sense for him because he is the man that started it all. He is the big bad throughout the whole saga.
Why? There's Kylo
Ren but we're talking about.
Kill the past. No, bring it back.
First of all, we're talking about a goddamn fucking movie that has laser fucking swords. Okay,
I can only suspend my belief so much.
Yeah,
okay?
I think for me, Palpatine coming back. For me, I grew up with the prequels. So Palpatine has always been the it wasn't Darth Vader to me because Palpatine's only in Return of the Jedi. It was Palpatine because Palpatine was in Revenge of the Sith. You see him; he's in Return of the Jedi.
He's in Empire.
Okay, but
retroactively because of the special edition, not weird hologram.
Weird older lady, yeah.
Darth Vader bent the knee to him, so to see Darth Vader bend the knee to anyone.
But it wasn't Ian McDiarmid until the special edition.
Yeah,
so.
That's okay. It was still Palpatine. But this is, for me, seeing Palpatine was like, okay, this is the Star Wars bad guy to me. He is the end game because he is who I always saw as the bad guy in Star Wars. He started Order 66. He led the Empire through. He was always in control in the Clone Wars. Watching the Clone Wars as a kid, if Palpatine showed up, you were either like, oh, he's about to lie, or oh, he's about to kill someone or mess someone up or do something terrifying. So when he came back in Rise of Skywalker, I started like freaking out when I heard him in the trailer because I was like, "There's no way that this little rat snake boy is back again." For years, I thought he was coming back because they'd hinted at it in Aftermath for years, though.
Yep.
And then in other books, they're like,
Whoa.
Palpatine will not let the Empire die. Well, I mean, sorry, Palpatine will make the Empire die if he dies, and there cannot be an Empire without him. So I'm thinking, then why did he instruct them to make a First Order? If Palpatine said there can't be an Empire, why did he then say go make a secret one? And I'm like, I'm starting to pick up on your Star Wars The Old Republic rip-off of the DLC.
Also,
If you read the Force Awakens novelization, you hear Rey hears in her head when she's about to go kill Kylo. Kill him, do it.
I didn't read
And
that.
then if you're the audiobook, it's Mark Thompson speaking as Palpatine. I wonder why.
Like listening to you, Jesse, talk about that and how passionate you are, how much you love it. Like it just tells me just how wildly different all of our experiences are.
Yeah.
With certain pieces of media.
100%.
Like when I look at The Rise of Skywalker and Palpatine, like Darth Plagueis is one of my favorite novels in Star Wars. I love Legends books. I enjoy them a lot. I think they're really weird and metal and just terrible, but I love them. But after The Rise of Skywalker and Palpatine returning in that one as a fucking pickled juice creepy old man, I want to set that book on fire and never read another fucking Palpatine book again. I'm done. I am so sick of him looming consistently over this franchise and its inability to move forward and do something different, do something. It had the opportunity and they blew it to me. Like, I'm so sick of him.
I'm waiting for the High Republic to tell me what Sith they have. Like, who is it? Who is there?
Give me another Sith,
don't
for the love
lie.
of God.
That's what I love about the High Republic. Well, at least the previous phase. I'm still having issues with the current phase, but the villain is the chaotic evil.
Don't spoil
villain.
too much, please. I'm still
Okay,
looking.
no, I'm not going to say it.
Okay,
but the villains are so different. They're not. I will say they're not Sith, but they're so different and and work so differently. And I love that. I feel like just to JD's point, I feel like the High Republic is moving on from Skywalker's Jedi Sith, or at least the Jedi versus Sith dynamic. It's introducing something completely different and turning it on its head. And I hope Acolyte somehow captures that. I don't know if it can because it's so close to Phantom Menace, but we'll see.
How close is it timeline-wise? Does anybody know?
50 years.
50?
Yeah.
How's 100?
No,
That's
it's
100?
100 years before A New
100?
Hope.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
New Hope. Okay.
Before
So it's
New
100
Hope.
years before A New
it's
Hope, so it's
literally-
50 years before rough or take.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
give
19
or
years
take
from
50 years.
Menace to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it? No, maybe it's. I don't remember.
No, because 10 years exactly. Yeah, it's about,
Well,
that makes sense. 30
So,
years. 'cause-
go ahead.
Jesse, I don't know how you just spent on this podcast for 5 minutes talking about Palpatine when I know for a fact your favorite Sith is Marka Ragnos.
You take that back right now. You take that back
Wow.
right now. I downloaded Jedi Knight Jedi Academy the other day. They mentioned Marka Ragnos, and I deleted the game because I forgot he was in it. I was like, I cannot listen to that man's stupid name for 10,000 times. If you think Palpatine, they never stop mentioning that man's name throughout the whole game. I'm like, shut up, he's
My
dead.
nightmare.
I will say
my
this
God.
though, JJ. Going into The Last Jedi, I was hell bent that Snoke was Plagueis. Because if you remember
Your
in the
Snoke theory
Plagueis novel, he has the gash. He's tall like Snoke. So my theory was, oh man, Snoke's Plagueis.
It's Plagueis, yeah. I
Like
remember those
that
days.
would have been an interesting in and of its own, because then you tie that back into the whole narrative of it ties back to Revenge of the Sith. Oh well, he learned that he could survive. He could escape death, and to find out that he escaped Palpatine killing him, and he's been the big guy all along.
That
would have been an
insane.
interesting.
That would have
That
been
would
cool.
have been an interesting dynamic, but they ended up doing that with Palpatine instead, which also makes sense.
Well, if
The
you paid
thing-
attention to
Yeah.
the
The thing is,
score-
like,
Sorry,
okay.
JJ.
No, I'm sorry. With Snoke, I had absolutely zero issues with how Snoke was handled, whether in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, because again, he's a mysterious looming figure in the dark side of the Force that arose somehow. I don't care how. Those details do not interest me. To me, he was a moving forward point from the Sith. In the same way that we were moving away from the old concept of Jedi, whatever you want to call that. So for him, for Snoke to be a Palpatine clone, whatever, fuck, I don't care. It just took back. I'm sorry. Like, all these explanations mean nothing to me. Like, The Last Jedi was a moving forward, moving away from what we have known into something else. But it then reverted back into what we knew.
Yeah.
It retconned itself. So, and I think, B, you said it on your Twitter, and I loved it. You cannot fix The Rise of Skywalker in going backwards.
You can't go backwards. You have to go forward. And I think like when they were talking before, like whether having Finn having his own project and things like that, I kind of disagree, because these characters, like the stories are about like connection and things like that, and these characters have a connection and a relationship that has not reached its like natural climax, because like Finn is like, I have something to tell you, Rey. He still has never told her, right? Like in The Force Awakens, he has that moment with Ben across the battlefield that, what the fuck was that about? Never realized. He never gets a rematch with Ben. Why? Why does this not get a natural conclusion? Like, that's why I'm like the monomyth. Like, in the beginning, I'm not gonna quote from the book because it's a little extra, but in the beginning of the book, they talk about how there's a grammar of stories, right? There are rules, the way stories work, right? So like, you can text your friends, right? And you could use misspelling. No one gives a crap, right? But when you when you're gonna present a paper in class or whatever, you're gonna use correct grammar, right? And so I feel like that's like again, like I don't know. It just feels like you can't fix it in reverse. Like the thing with like the prequels is that like it completes the monomyth, right? So when the Clone Wars is doing the lore bit, right? It's making it make sense. Like, and we do need the lore bit. Like the Mandalorian is getting that lore bit right now. But the mythos part needs to happen afterwards, and these characters need to reunite and complete those stories before diverging on their own paths, because that's how I kind of feel about it.
Departure, initiation, return. They need to return with the elixir.
Yes.
And that can only happen moving forward. All the Mandalorian is doing right now with cloning, that's great. Shadow of the Sith, fine. It doesn't matter unless you fix the broken monomyth here.
I think
so. I do want to say two quick things, and one is going to lead into like the last segment that we do. So for the one thing I do want to say is one thing that not a lot of people really talk about with Finn that I feel like was a mistake in this movie, especially building off of The Last Jedi's deleted scene, which I think is Finn's best scene in the trilogy. Ryan, I'm in your walls. Why did you delete that scene? The one between him and Phasma.
It was pacing.
Oh yeah.
Pacing.
Is it on a DVD extra or anything like that?
It's on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on. You can YouTube it.
We'll watch it together after.
It's on Disney Plus.
But it's Finn says to Rey in The Force Awakens, I was taken from a home that I never knew, like most other stormtroopers. And yet, in besides when he's like fighting for his life in The Force Awakens, when he's like trying to flee, he's free at this point in Tross. He is not like stunning these stormtroopers, he's killing them. And he knows that they're conditioned, so they're not even like this is not a draft where they can escape. This is not where they're signing up, they're volunteering. A lot of them were stolen. Most of them, if not all of them, were stolen, and then they were brainwashed from toddler to children age. And as we find out from Lando in the Rise of Skywalker novelization, some of these kids were stolen straight from rebellion leadership, which gets into a whole other issue with the New Republic. But I just don't. That's a wildly missed opportunity with having a main hero being a former stormtrooper. So there's that. But for the final segment, I want since we have the enjoyers and the non-enjoyer side, I want the non-enjoyers to say something they enjoy about this film, and the non-enjoyers to say something they don't enjoy about this film. For me, I know what I enjoy about this film. It's Rey, Poe, and Finn being together. They have a great dynamic and character interactions. I love Rey and Poe being bickering, Finn trying to bring the two together, Finn and Poe being like an old married couple that are like dysfunctional, Finn and Rey being like a married couple that is functional, and then just their whole dynamic. I wish Rose would have been involved in that, but we know. But
nice.
We should have gotten more of that. I want more of that.
Okay.
So character stories, yes, characters.
So whoever wants to go next, or I will do volunteer or victim.
Who talks first? You talk first. I'll go first. Anytime Ben Solo was soloing it up, little like the first beginning scene. Yes, they should have made it clear that was Mustafar and not just some red planet.
No, crazy.
But he's so fucking cool. I love him so much. That fight scene was so fucking dope. Like, yes, you go, baby. And any time that like he like let like his like you could tell like I know who your parents are. Like him holding up his finger to Hux, like straight from Han.
Oh, God,
and then
we
that
didn't even
whole
talk about Hux.
yeah.
We don't have enough time for that.
Time for that. I will just say, stop making abuse characters' backstory if you're only going to kill them off. I'll just say that with Hux. And I like, the Ben Solo when he's running around in his shirt, his good boy shirt. The shrug,
carrying the blaster Lando gave him.
Carrying the blaster Lando gave him. My heart, and even him, the really depressing part, climbing out of the pit, really just shows like how much he was willing to work to fix the wrong that he did to the best of his ability. So that's my favorite part.
Okay. Brooke.
wait. Yep.
Good. Yeah.
That's about right. I'll just piggyback off of that. Definitely all of like Kylo Ren and Ben Solo moments. They were pretty magical. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters from like Force Awakens all the way till the end. So to see him die and that was pretty tragic. I did enjoy Babu Frick's presence. He was cute. It was funny. I love looking little aliens who make funny noises. I'm a Grogu stan till the end. I will die for him. He's adorable. I did enjoy also like Force Dyad, switching of planes in space and time. Like those shots were incredible. Like when they're doing one of these and they're switching locations and they can kind of see each other. Fantastic. Like honestly, if you cut out 5 planets out of 10 that they visited and 3 or 7 out of 10 MacGuffins they were chasing, and to do some character work and maybe dedicate some lore dumping on Force Dyad concept, this movie would have been a fucking masterpiece, and I wouldn't have such an issue with it. So it's just the structure. Like you sacrifice so much character development and some of the cool lore, to visit. I don't know, 15 fucking planets. Anyways. So yeah, Babu Frick, the Force Dyad, Ben Solo, really enjoyed that. The end hug was really nice. Which again, they developed those characters more, so that emotionally hit for me a little bit more. Like they were almost like forcing Rey and Poe to bicker like Han and Leia. And I'm like, there's no setup for this. It just doesn't work. Like,
because
are you trying to force chemistry? I don't
feel better, man.
I mean, that's why they met at the end of Last Jedi, so then they could get together in Duel of the Fates, because
it was so terrible.
I will say one thing about that goddamn script. The only good part is Finn shit.
I also say Kylo Ren staying evil is good, but that's just
everything else in that fucking goddamn script. We don't need to see literally it's a love letter to the fucking prequels.
But we also get the worst line ever in that script of he ended the Star Wars.
Wait, say that again?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the actual line.
He stabbed himself with a lightsaber and said he went through like what we've lost the Star Wars or something.
That's actually true.
Yes, that is
true. That script. It's a real line.
I wanted to add off of the like chemistry thing. I agree that it feels a little odd, but I feel like it feels odd because I feel like it should have been more. There should have been more of the character connection in The Last Jedi, where they started to become that group. That's where I feel like that's why it felt odd for me in that movie, because I felt like they needed it in because to me, Empire Strikes Back was like that. Attack of the Clones was like that, where that's where they became a group.
But in those middle movies, all three main characters sort of go on their own paths to establish their character arcs, because you can't do that within a group setting. So, but then they were trying to force, because they didn't have that deeper of a connection, in my opinion, in the first film. Like, I felt like, again, Force Awakens was moving a little too fast for me, even though I enjoyed that film a lot. So to me, the setup just wasn't there to get to Finn and Poe and Rey bickering like Luke and Leia. Like, where is this coming from? Like, what are they trying to force here? You know what I mean? So that's why for me that didn't work. For me, like, if let's say Rey and Finn were bickering, which they could have, I get that. That totally makes sense, because there's a setup for that. Yeah. But with Poe, was weird. They just met, and all of a sudden, like, they're trying to force some weird chemistry between them, which didn't work.
We were so close to having a positive ending on this for JJ.
But you know what? Like, I just want to point out Brooks' comment. Kylo Ren staying evil is like anti-Star Wars. You're right. You're absolutely right. That is. If you guys are interested, read Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey versus the American Monolith. It is very interesting the way those two kind of combat each other. Those two concepts. So
what do the enjoyers have to say? One thing that we don't like about the race?
One thing.
I don't like that Luke likes it. It ruins the movie for me.
I didn't hear you. What did you say? I'm sorry.
Jesse said that the fact that I like it is the reason why he does not like it.
It ruins the whole movie for me.
I personally don't like. Okay, and this is gonna be me being nitpicky as fuck. I think I know they couldn't afford all of those actors, and the way that they did it. Like, I love the voices, but I would have loved to see all of the Jedi, Hayden, Ewan, all of them, all behind Rey, and make that. But then again, that's just me being picky.
I didn't even talk about how they just copied in-game.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Yeah.
That's enough. We have too much to talk about. I could go over there for a separate.
That's my one gripe. Is that I wish we would have. That, and I wish we would have gotten the line of "It's yours, Rey," so that it would shut everybody the fuck up.
I don't get that. I don't understand.
But I want that. I wanted that. I wanted Luke to say, when they show up as Force Ghosts, and say, "It's okay, Rey. It's yours," and then she says it. That in the book makes that line so much more impactful.
I agree with Brooke.
What Brooke said, and enjoyers. One question, like,
that's
here's
true. It does.
If the Force is reaching out to Rey, why is it not reaching out to Ben Solo? Why is he sitting alone there, fucking miserable, broken, ribs like all over the place, crawling to the girl he's trying to save, and looking around anybody, Dad, Grandpa, Vader, I don't give a fuck, like who, anybody, and zilch, and then all of a sudden they're there for her. Why not?
I want to add one thing to that, JJ. When in the Tross novelization, when Rey is like laying out there, like fading out, she reaches out to the Force. She doesn't sense Ben, which I feel is weird. I don't know. Maybe they were trying. Like, if you read the book, you've seen the movie, so I don't know who they're trying to psych out there. But she feels Finn and Janna.
Janna's a Force user. Yeah.
Yep, Janna's
a Force user, right?
Yeah.
And but it's okay. Oh, and then to top off on the, I think it was B that said, you know, Finn is saying like, "Oh, I have something to tell you, Rey," and then never does. Yeah, at the very end of the book, when they do that hug, you know, Finn says again, "I have something I have to tell you," and both Poe and Rey are like, "We know," and that's it.
Wait, we know that's okay because I haven't read that.
Yeah, read. No. You should. No, JJ should read the whole novelization. But then again, she would absolutely hate even more. I feel like.
I thought he was trying to tell her he was in love with her. Is that not what's happening?
That's what I thought too.
No.
So
it's more sensitive.
Yeah, that's what J.J. Abrams said after the film. He was like, "That's what it was." I was like, "That makes no sense." Because that is not.
I thought it was a love confession. In my opinion.
The way he seems like he's saying it, like it seems like if you're dying, your last words to someone wouldn't be, "I'm force sensitive, by the way."
Yeah,
That was my mind.
love.
My thought process was like, "Oh, finally, he's gonna say I love you," and then
I feel
J.J. Abrams was
something
like,
for-
"He has the force," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay."
Use
like-
it, then. Then use it. Like, Ray, how do I do this?
Yeah.
My unpopular opinion is
Right.
they didn't really need the Ray. I need to tell you something because what is it, Finn? A feeling, and when you hear the force theme play, that's just enough right there. If you don't know what he's talking about,
Nah,
the film spells it out for you.
I'm gonna need it to say it. Don't tease me with my black characters, all right?
That's true.
I think
Ben's
you came right out.
existence is a tease.
Hereth, what is the one thing that you don't like about the Rise of Skywalker?
Well, I've said it a lot. It's the editing of the film is abysmal. The pacing and the structure makes zero sense. They needed to do another draft of that film where the pacing, because like what I love about Force Awakens is the pacing is just butterly smooth. It's just
It is.
it goes fast when it needs to go fast, but it goes slow when it needs to go slow, and that's what I wanted from Rise, which is the film that deserves it the most because it's the final movie of the saga. It needed to just kind of have its moments and just sit there.
Yep. Yeah. Jesse?
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. There is actually a really big thing that to a lot of people seems stupid, but to me it's a very Palpatine's line that I am all the Sith, to me is not an end game that I hate it. It's because that's not the Sith. The Sith are not a I am what my previous generations have made me. It's an I'm me. I am the best. There is no better me. And I feel like when he's like, I am all the Sith, to me, that's him saying all the Sith are in me. They've given me all their power. And it really just kind of breaks that Sith like feeling for me. Because now to me, it just feels like he's just like absorbing them to be like, look at me, I'm the fruit of your labor. But he's not. And to me, that's very anti-Sith. That's not what their purpose is. They are bad people who are for themselves. They don't take power from other people. They pass their power. It's not their power in them. It's my power is better than yours. And I feel like that moment, Palpatine saying that, I was like, you definitely just did that because you wanted Rey to say, I am all the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I feel like Rey could have just said, I am all the Jedi in some way. Not that exact line, because to me, both of those lines a little goofy. But like, obviously, Rey is the fruit of all the Jedi's labor. But that, and also, there's one thing, and that is that Exegol is like one of the coolest planets ever. And it's like, how come they just stopped looking for it? That's so stupid to me. It's like, you know that there's a Sith planet that is very dangerous, and you've stopped. And I know the Shadow of the Sith, I still think it's stupid that they stopped looking, because
I agree.
if you're feeling like someone's calling you, if you're feeling like there's a darkness out there, and you stop because because some bounty hunter was the person you ended up finding at the end of your trail, that's a stupid way of saying, you know, I guess we're never gonna find it. Like, what? Why? Why would you stop yourself from finding like Emperor Palpatine alive? That was the biggest thing for me, is that Luke would stop and that Lando would stay behind. I feel like that also, when I read that, I was like, why? Why would he just stay there?
Lando again.
Why did he just stay there the whole time?
Yeah. Chris.
I'm going to say the cinematography. I have a lot of friends with epilepsy, and the really cute lens flare effects that J.J. Abrams loves to use sets them off. And Exegol in general, with the flashing lights and stuff, sets them off too. So it's always been my least favorite thing about J.J. Abrams movies. He thinks that's a very impressive thing to do. And considering I can now do that easily on my phone as a TikTok filter, it's just not it's just not cute anymore, and you got to learn new tricks.
It's a little disifying for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
I will say the effects of the lightning though, like story wise, I think that's cool as shit.
Story-wise, great, but you have a huge portion of people who can't watch the movie because of that, and that's not cool.
Yeah, I like in Rebels, they dim the screen so that you can still watch it. Exegol, there's literally a reason you could make Exegol darker in that moment, so that the lightning can flash, but they just
Yeah, there's a different way. There's a different way to do it, and he didn't do it. So.
And it's very blue. I don't know. Like, does anybody have an issue like with how blue it is? Like,
Oh, the color correction in the movie's bad. I will say that.
It gives me a bit of a headache. I have a hard time watching it because it's just the blueness of it is just like really.
They also
changed it now.
They also went back and changed it on Disney Plus. Yeah, if you have the Blu-ray version versus Disney Plus, the colors are different.
Are they really interesting? I may actually rewatch it finally.
Peanut.
Yeah. Sigh. I mean, I feel like
find one bad thing to say about Rise of Skywalker.
No, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just something she didn't enjoy.
You dislike. Yeah.
Okay, enjoy. Okay, you didn't enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could go on about Poe, I could go on about Rose, I could go on about Finn, but you guys hit the nail on the head with that one, and I feel like that's a constant in Star Wars, Dave Filoni, I'm in your fucking wars, especially what you did to Barriss.
Oh my god, yeah.
Let's not get it's like that, that's other gravy. So story-wise, I'm just gonna say Dark Rey, that cop-out, I don't know. When Rey is pushed emotionally, when she loses that composure, Daisy really is an incredible fucking actress, Now, I'm not saying go full Anakin mode, and this is why I think this particular story would have benefited so well if there was a part 1 and part 2. Yeah, personally, because I feel like she would have gone deeper into the depths of being able to explore that. Maybe it would have given us a better understanding. Because I like the whole Sith lightning. If it did make sense, if it didn't make sense, cool. And that she used that was one of my favorite bits of the film. So the fact that it was kind of teased in the trailer and everybody was really excited about that, and then it was just kind of over in the blink of an eye. Like, yes, she had a struggle throughout the film, and we and that was what was so compelling about her, not just in The Rise of Skywalker, by the way, but also in The Last Jedi. When you see that struggle internally, emotionally, that's where she's at her best. So the fact that wasn't explored enough for me, that was a big one. Secondly, I love that she's an honorary Skywalker. I'm always going to be an advocate for Rey Skywalker, for sure. But her relationship with Luke, I know it's very limited given the untimely passing of Carrie Fisher, I think they did as well as they could with that, especially in the novelization, which I think their relationship in that is incredible. But they could have done so much more with her and Luke, so much more.
Yeah, I am Luke Skywalker should have lived at the end of The Last Jedi to help atone for his personal failings with his family and the people in that second, not like the galaxy, like the other 2 Skywalker men that die after they redeem themselves. But yeah, no, Skywalker men are just dramatic. They're like, atone for my sins. Nah, I'm good. But yeah, especially after Carrie died. Especially after Carrie, you had a whole year to just refilm that scene and just have Luke go into a coma after that. But
agreed.
Yeah,
that's a different conversation.
Chris, ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I just I'm glad we had everybody on this panel. I've obviously interacted with all of you in different ways and respect all of you, and I was really excited to talk to y'all about this film that has a wide range of conversations where people can actually produce competent dialogue and not, this film sucks because women, or because people of color, or because that one gay kiss that was in the scene for 2 seconds so Disney could cut it out for China. So people that have come from a wide variety of backgrounds and life experiences. And, I'll just perish about it. So thank you for all coming on. Before we go, it was our pleasure.
Yeah,
right, Luke and Hereth?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we go, let everyone know where they can find you and your amazing content. We're going to go with the non-enjoyers first because they were last in the introduction. B.
Hello. Again, I am B or Bennett. Beanabees _ literally everywhere. I keep it simple for y'all. You can find me anywhere. If you want to hear me continue talking about Star Wars and mythos, TikTok, good place to go. If you want like the reading list that I kept pulling out during this stream, I just tweeted the list if you want to do some homework. B2B is everywhere. I do cosplay. I stream with the Void about anything that I'm interested at the time, anime, Star Wars, you name it. So yeah, that's me.
We gotta get you on the podcast.
Yes,
Yeah?
you do.
Yes, we do.
About
We'll
what?
We'll talk some Rebels. Talk some Star Wars Rebels.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
All right, there we go.
I guess we're doing non-enjoyer still.
Yeah.
All right. JJ, thanks for having me again on here.
Yeah,
I always have
was a
great fun
pleasure.
with you guys. It's very difficult to discuss sequel trilogy and especially this film in like a critical matter without bringing in, like Kris said, all of the bad faith takes and really awful and misogynistic and racist takes on this film. So it's very nice to be in a group of people that can actually talk about this critically and, bless you.
Bless you.
So I appreciate the invite. So, and you can find me mostly on TikTok and Twitter right now under Lady Dragon JJ. I talk about everything. Like my bread and butter has been Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, but I love Star Wars and Marvel, pop culture in general. Like if it's fun, I'll talk about it. So yeah, that's where. Thank you again.
All right, Luke, I'll have you do the enjoyers.
Okay. Peanut. Where can the good people follow you on the social medias?
Peanut,
are you in
Peanut,
there?
are you there?
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. guys in London. It's 3 a.m. That's what I'm going to say.
we
I've been
appreciate
fasting
you.
for the last 2 days. Like, I'm barely awake right now. But I love being on this segment. I am Peanut, also known as Race Sky Goat. You can physically find me in 2 weeks' time at Star Wars Celebration. So please come say hi, take a photo. You can find me on Twitter at RaySkyGo. I have a Discord community, Peanuts High Council, where we are starting up our podcast again. So I'd love to do a featurette with each and every single one of you. Out and about. Twitch, where I stream Fortnite, here and there.
Did you get into the whole Fortnite thing because of the Palpatine thing? Because I feel like we could bond on that.
I didn't know Star Wars then. Well, I did know of it, but I wasn't. I'm really new. I'm like the baby of the community, so yeah.
One
so
of
exciting.
us. One of us.
I'm so sorry for you. I am so sorry.
It's a different perspective. Hey, it's weird. I grew up with lightsabers, but never watched the films. It's strange.
That's interesting.
So interesting.
That's interesting. Kris.
So hi, I'm Kris. I'm at SquireX2 on all the social medias. I have a few podcasts, one could say. One is Dark Side Divas, which is a Star Wars podcast where we go through the chronological story. We do the same thing for Marvel on a podcast called Marvelous Divas. And then a third podcast for Light and Dice. It is a High Republic-inspired tabletop role-playing game podcast that I do with other queer content creators, and it's chaotic and fun as fuck.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Dark Side Divas is almost catching up to us.
Are we? We just started Rebels. We're gonna be at Rebels for.
Starting Rebels. Yeah,
we're gonna be there for a year and a half.
Oh shit! Never mind. We're almost done with Rebels. We're on season 3, episode 3.
I feel like it's us and a race and Dark Side Divas. We're literally
is. It's literally
every single time.
Who can finish the saga first?
It's not Luke. It's not about finishing it. It's who can last longer.
Well, the funny thing is, you're going in chronological. We're going in release.
Chris,
Huh?
that was in more than one way, wasn't it?
I'm just representing my brand, So
I fucking
Smart.
love it. I love it. Jesse.
You can find me on TikTok where I have lore videos that will be coming out maybe tomorrow. I Mentally Ill Sith Lord. I post lots of lore, lots of Legends lore, sometimes canon. It depends what I want to talk about. Not much Sith stuff for me there. But also on Twitter, not right now. I'm taking a bit of a break from Twitter, but at Mentally Ill Sith. And I think, yeah, that's it. You won't find me on Pod Ones again because I am not allowed back.
Oh, that is not
Banned.
true. You heathen.
I actually know.
I guess it's true. I'm kidding.
What? I was like, what the heck?
Not me. Not me.
No,
That was not me.
I leave May 8th until August 26th, so they're not letting me back on because I'm not letting me back on because I won't be here. But
We'll have you. We'll have you for other things, though, Jesse.
there's no more malls, so why? What's the point? What's the point, man?
What's the point of living if I can't talk about Darth
He's been dead for so many years. I need him
He'll come
back.
back. He'll come back. It's fine. He'll
Somehow Maul returned.
Exactly.
Listen, I have a whole theory on how Maul can come back.
Sequel trilogy, George
my
Lucas
God.
sequel trilogy, guys.
Oh
Just
no.
Can I, before we wrap, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead.
No,
JJ.
no, go
I'm
ahead.
pretty sure JJ was going to hit on the exact point I was going to hit on before I plug my social medias, which is
Go.
I hope this panel shows that we can have these type of conversations in the community more. Because
Yeah.
I think people, when they talk about their opinions on the sequel trilogy or any Star Wars, don't realize how much of a significance they have and how much it can sway people one way or the other. I feel like having these type of conversations and having these bridged, hopefully we change each other's opinions. Maybe if you're a non-enjoyer, maybe you're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Same with us. Oh, well, this person, I like the Rise of Skywalker. Maybe that person changed my opinion. Whatever way that you guys sit on the fence, again, I hope it affects us. Now, where you can find me on social media is, I guess you can find me Hereth Productions on TikTok temporarily. You can find me Hereth Productions on Instagram, Hereth_edits on Twitter, and of course, you're on Pod Ones.
JJ, was that what you were gonna say, or
I
were you
just
gonna
wanted
go
to-
funny?
Yeah, well, two things. I just want to concede one thing. Like, I probably shouldn't have gone after J.J. Abrams. Like, you're right. Like, movie should be judged on its own merits. Like, I shouldn't have just singled him out. That's not how movie making works. I definitely take that back. I have an emotional response because of he killed Ben Solo.
Yeah,
he killed out Ben Solo. So
The
for me,
mouse
it's very
killed
much-
Ben Solo.
yeah. It took me a journey to get there. I was cursing J.J. Abrams' name for like good 6 months. So this is a journey.
And I want to try to be as fair as possible. And I have been. I want to be charitable. I really do because I enjoy these conversations. So I definitely concede on that. But also, I just want to. Brooke said about Force Ghost for Ben Solo. No Force Ghost. He's not dead. I just want to end it right there on a
He's just
positive
palling
note.
around. He's just palling around in Rey's spirit.
Somehow
Oh
Ben
my
Solo-
No, Chris, we're not enabling that
No,
theory.
no. I'm not saying that it's like the forced pregnancy thing. No, that's
Okay,
stupid.
good. Okay, good.
Oh no!
Never heard of
Oh,
it.
God.
Never
Bring
heard
down
of
the
it.
Hold on,
top
let me explain
cloth.
this. Let me explain this. Real
Well,
quick.
enough to
Okay,
start
let me explain
conversation.
this. So there was a theory that when one that like the beads that Rey had on Pisana were fertility beads, and then the second thing is that when Ben put his life essence to bring her back, he put more than just a different kind of life essence in there, and she's pregnant with his child. And that's not what I was going with. I was just saying because they're a dyad, he can't pass on into the netherworld of the Force because they can't go until they go together.
He's
Together.
in
So he's just kind of
purgatory.
like palling
Yes, he's in
around like
purgatory. That's a good
in
way
her
to
head
put
or
it.
Canon is
wherever
better.
the Force flows
Canon.
through you. And like that's why I say if she's able to Force project, if she should be able to see him. That's all I'm saying. All she's got to do is learn it, because if you can project other things and his voice can be heard, why can't you just project him and speaking to her? I don't know.
Like
Yeah,
he
that's
projected
This
babies.
is literally the best thing I heard in a very long time.
I mean,
This
I
is
may have just
fair.
spoiled some things for that fanfic, but whatever, it's fine. Yeah. All right.
Chris, where can the good people follow you?
Star Wars lawyer on everything. Keep it simple. Just
Everywhere,
yeah, everywhere.
everywhere, everyone.
Everywhere all at once.
You can follow us at the Pod Ones on all social medias. Next week, speaking of Star Wars Celebration, we are going to have a community stream for Friday. So Friday, March 1st.
April 1st, you mean?
It's
No,
actually
March
31st.
31st.
Not
Thank
first.
you.
There we go.
The March
I'm looking at
31st.
the calendar.
Ooh,
March-
that's my
March-
birthday.
Oh,
Happy
birthday.
early
Well,
birthday.
happy
I'll be
happy
tuning in
early
for that.
Oh,
birthday.
happy
Thank you.
birthday.
Peanut. So,
Thank
we will be doing a community stream. It'll be kind of set up like how Darth Chaco had his community high ground. And it'll be through the celebration server. So, we'll get you guys into groups, and then we'll bring you all on. We'll probably, me and Chris have discussed bringing the European folks in first because it will be later at night for you guys. But that is going to happen at
I have a
7.
question.
Yes, Jesse. What is your question?
First off, I'm not going to celebration, but you should still let me come. Second, if I'm there, I demand that I be placed with the Europeans because I do not want to be put with the Americans.
Ooh, wow.
Okay.
Also,
But
that
anyway,
Brooke said
what
the same thing I
about
was about to
Americans or
say.
Europeans?
Yeah.
Nope, y'all can find
Can
me.
I be by myself, actually?
No.
No
But
Canadians who I've ever heard.
but
I should have said it with an accent.
so if you guys are interested, in doing that with us, we'll be organizing it in through the 2023 Discord server. So that will be next week. 7:30. Are we back to regular time, Chris? Or do you have conflicting things?
No, 7:30 should be fun.
Okay,
think. I don't
7:30,
know.
7:30 Eastern time next week. But that's gonna be it. Chris, take us out.
Thank you everyone for coming and speaking and being a part of this productive conversation. Thank you to everyone in the comments. Brooke, Kenny, DePaul, Pep, Charlie Hep, I don't know who you are, Scott Summers, and everyone that has been in here. I hope you all have a good night. And remember, there are more of us.